You found us.
Welcome to Emergency Protocol, a podcast for people who are stressy and depressy.
We are your hosts,
Denise.
And Jackie Freed. That's my mama.
And that's my baby.
We are sharing our 12 steps reimagined for today's society.
And our bumpy, pothole-ridden spiritual paths.
And we're bringing you along for the ride.
This is us doing the actual work.
When the shit hits the fan, you know it's time for
Emergency Protocol.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
It's been a minute, everybody.
Been a minute.
Sorry for dipping out.
Yeah.
We've had a few weeks of change.
Yeah.
And life. Yeah.
Per usual.
So, yeah, life is in session. That hasn't stopped.
No, definitely has not.
So moved your sister back from Hawaii after college, moving her into her grad school apartment with no lap in between, lots of changes at work. And so all I can say is I'm tired. Yeah. I literally went to bed at 10 last night and woke up at 8 this morning.
That's a lot for
That's
you.
Usually I'm an 11 to 7. I'm a pretty good sleeper. But I just couldn't even do the Olympics last night. I was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
But all good things, I think. I mean, and hard things and changey things, which bring up a lot of tension and stress and anxiety and so, definitely. Yeah, that's been going on in both of our lives, personally and professionally. So it's kind of like, okay, all right, this is what's being dished out now. I guess we're going to have to do it.
Yeah. And also, just recognizing that, it's not all firing on all cylinders moment.
No.
Right?
No, and that's kind of, for me, it's a little stressful because I've organized a sober retreat for next weekend. And, there's 40 women coming and there's spending the night for 2 nights and there's content and I'm usually way ahead of the curve at this point. And it's like, no, I still need to send our agenda to the printer and I need to do some stuff.
Fancy.
I know. I'm fancy like that.
Okay.
I had to order some extra headphones because we exceeded what I thought we were going to do because we're having a little silent disco on Saturday night. Yeah, because you got to have fun even when you're doing this work.
Yeah.
So the fun has to be built into it. And also, I figure, when you're doing a concentrated weekend of this kind of stuff, it's good to get out of your head and into your body and just move. And for some reason, people all dance when the headphones are on. I don't know what the psychology is around that, of why people are more free when there's a headphone on than they would be if there was just music playing live. But it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So
cute.
Anyway. So that's where we are. We're not okay. I've not been okay, and we're not getting better on our own.
Yeah.
So one of the things that is changing is the ownership of the company that we hired to help us move this forward. And
it's just a lot of changes.
Yes.
Coming at all angles right now.
And I met with the new owner and he was very helpful. And I think he's going to help us in new ways. And we'll see and our old team is still in place. And thank you all for your help with all of you have done to get us this far.
Yeah. We are heavily relying on you guys. Yeah.
And in doing this work, which we printed out for the first time, we're doing this workbook.
Our workbook.
One of the things that he said was, we're talking to one person, right? Like the person who's listening. And who is that person? And it was an interesting question because I just feel like I'm talking to you, like we're just talking to each other, right? So I have that in the back of my mind. But what I also have in kind of in our discussions and in writing this workbook, we ask a lot of pointed questions that are questions people probably have been avoiding and don't want to answer and are triggering and like, you know, we're poking the bear, really. And what I realized, and I love your thoughts on this, and I spoke with Kim a little bit about this on Friday. When you're in your like deep depression mode, I think it's probably easier to look at, I mean, it's never easy, but it's easier to look at the negative than it is to look at the positive. And I think we're going to need to add in some positive questions. Like, give examples where you've helped others. Or, do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's probably equally, if maybe not harder, to see the good in yourself than it is to see the negative. And while the negative needs to be churned out so that you can see what it is, like, you know, if somebody gets triggered because they're angry and like a little flippant comment would set them off in a very exaggerated way. Yeah. You know, there's all this anger that's way back over here that's not even tied into what's going on in the moment that needs to be dealt with. So yes, that still needs to be dealt with back there. But I think when you're in that depression, it's so easy to say, yes, I'm a piece of shit because blah, 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 blah. And not so easy to say, I'm also really care about my family and friends. I also, like, in your instance, like, you went and did all the grocery shopping for all of your friends and family during the pandemic, right? Like, not many people were willing to put themselves at risk for
a little bit of an al-anon thing there, I'm sure.
There was,
I was like, well, I'm childless
there you go.
and
But that's it.
single
That's it. Like, you just turned it into a negative.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that was like a totally selfless act of being of service to people who were afraid to leave their house for good reason, because there were all these older people. And that's what I'm talking about. It's easy to see the negative, even in a positive.
Yeah.
And I think it's harder for someone, and you can tell me if this is true or not, but this is just something that came to me as I was talking to this guy, Dudley, and also to Kim, that we need to explore what is good in people as well. And so that people can build off of, I am good. Yeah. Also, right?
Yeah.
We're not just one thing.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like part of my saving grace over the last couple like weeks, months has been like, I believe that I'm a fundamentally good person, right? Like I've never questioned that, right? Like I think that I am very compassionate and I have a lot of love to give, and that's been what I've like been relying on. I'm like, I might be unwashed and unshowered, but I'm at the very least a good, caring person, right? And like as I'm going, you know, as my thoughts are kind of spiraling with all the stuff that's happening in the world, I've been pausing and like kind of recognizing those deep feelings as a sign that my humanity is still very much intact in a world where we're like so overexposed to like casual violence in our entertainment and our media and that kind of stuff, and just a lot of like rhetoric over like, you know, from the presidency before this, right? Like that kind of news cycle circus is really intense. And so for me to still have really strong feelings in response to a lot of that media is to me a good sign and a positive sign that like my emotions are still like functional, right? And my empathy is intact. But yeah, it is hard to focus on the good things, right? Like, and you know, as much as I would love to do a gratitude journal every day when I'm in my like funk, like I'm not brushing my teeth every night. I'm not going to do a fucking gratitude journal.
Right.
You know?
But maybe if you did the gratitude journal, you would brush your teeth.
I don't.
That's what I mean, that's, yeah, it's, maybe they're tied together.
Yeah. I mean, I also see 11/11 a lot, so I always make a wish around that time. That's usually like a good reset. Mm-hmm. And so I'll just like sit and pause and do that, right? Like I'll just, if I need a second, like I've been sitting and pausing a lot more.
Yeah.
And just like being still. But yeah, I don't really know how to like explain it to you. Like you're like, well, just make a list of your chores and do them.
No,
just do the gratitude list. And
yeah.
like I understand what you're saying in principle of like the contrary action, and you know that's really tied into like dialectical behavioral therapy and that kind of stuff. But when I'm in that space, I can't really do anything unless I get like a specific, and other people's experience may also be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone's experience of anxiety and depression can vary so much. But like if I'm in that space, I'm really struggling. The thing that like I have to have a very specific like burst of like motivation and energy to do anything, right? So some days I might gratitude journal one day, right? Or I might just journal in general. But then the next day I'm like, I can't do it.
But what if it wasn't so complicated? What if it's just like, it's not even a journal. I'm just going to say out loud 10 things that I'm grateful for. Like just, like, is there a way to flip that switch where I remember being given this direction when I was newly sober because, you know, I'm in that mode of addiction, and it is like, and it's not, I can't even tell you about the depression or anxiety because the whole focus is the obsession of getting high or getting drunk and not feeling that. And so the obsession for an addict or an alcoholic is like, I'm just thinking about, can I get through these next 4 hours? And so I can go drink and I can, you know, so I can get out of work, so I can go so I can check out. Right. I don't want to feel, I don't want to think, I want
I mean,
out.
mine's kind of the same. It's like, can I get through these 4 hours and get out of work so I can go home and get into bed?
Right. So it's
similar.
similar, but
Can't you just say your gratitude list out loud? Or
no. So back to like sobriety and the obsession.
Yeah.
It was like, all I could think of is, how long do I have to bear what I'm doing so that I can go not think? And so maybe that addiction piece could be tied to, not pointing fingers here, but Instagram, right? Like,
yeah,
it's the same.
totally.
But instead of the alcohol and drugs, like not making me feel good.
Yeah.
It's the Instagram not making me feel good.
Right.
Right. But it's still the known thing that's going to take away these negative feelings and thoughts that I'm having, which is, I think, why there's so many meetings at 7:30, 6:30, 7:30, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, that kind of happy hour when you're done with work and now we want to check into our whatever of choice, right? Whatever that is, the check out space, but however you check out.
Yeah.
And so I think what happens in those meetings is, maybe it's oxytocin. I don't know what happens, but you're like seeing people, you're talking, you're feeling a part of, you're listening, you're laughing, you're crying, you're having a communal experience.
Yeah.
And then it's like 9 o'clock and you're like, okay, I can either, like, hopefully I've eaten before I went to the meeting, and or I'm going to grab a light bite and I'm going to go home and go to bed. And I made it through the day. And it was like,
And I did a thing that was not just work.
And I did a
which
thing.
Which is like the third space thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like it's so easy to get stuck in the like work home cycle too.
Yeah.
But yes, I see your point. I've been doing many outings lately.
You're going on outings?
Let's rewind back to what you were saying, which is like when you're getting sober, you're focusing on not using, right? It's just like
today.
I'm going to try to like survive the next thing on my calendar.
Like and
then I'll do the next thing on my calendar.
Yes.
And I'm going to hopefully do all of those things without using.
Correct.
Yeah.
If you even have a calendar. Like some people's calendar, there is
but I mean
calendar.
like on the agenda, right? Like I'm going to get through my shift at work. I'm going to get
assuming
through
you have a
this
job.
dinner. Yeah. Yeah.
If you have nothing going on.
then
I was going to
three.
I was going to 3 meetings a day. I would go to 1 in the morning, 1 at noon, and 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then I was like instructed to start looking like putting out applications for jobs, right?
If you don't have a car to get around to the meetings too, you got to make buddies who can come give you a ride.
Correct.
Or you got to hop on the bus.
Correct.
Or the metro.
Right. And so.
Or now you can do virtual meetings too.
Yes.
Assuming you have internet.
Right.
Get your butt to the library. We love the library.
Right. So there's, it was a lot to, and it was also tiring. So after you start doing it and then you feel better and now you've racked up a couple of days, then it's like, okay, why do I have to go to all these meetings all the time? I'm so tired of doing things from morning till night.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted break, but then the break nights were not great because I didn't know how to fill my time with anything but drinking and using. And so like I hadn't broken that habit yet of.
That was at a time when there were like more third spaces, I feel like. Like when I was growing up, I feel like you and Dad were always playing like racquetball or like doing stuff.
I think there's still that. There's people.
Not as much though. Like the community rec center has gone farther.
But that's why pickleball is so strong, right?
So okay, wait. This is interesting though, because I feel like a lot of our conversations have been framed around like my individual circumstances, and a big part of my anxiety and depression is related to my frustration with like society and like the broader kind of environment that we live in, right? And I really think that it's important that we don't like completely I don't completely navel gaze and be like, oh, well, it's like I needed to be on meds, right? It's like, no, I'm existing within this broader system that is not serving me and serving the kind of community I want to live in. So I just want to put that aside in there because it's not just us. If you're also not okay, it's not just us. Like, we're in a weird place societally right now.
Well, and I also read somewhere like 1 in 3, I don't know if it was 1 in 3. It was a pretty high number of teens are getting some sort of psychiatric care, right? Like it's just through the
pandemic.
Kids to the adults to everybody is feeling some sort of stress right now. And I think, while you're still going to feel that stress, knowing you have community and knowing you have, something to tap into is comforting.
Right.
So,
but for people who are not addicts or alcoholics, we're getting there.
We're getting there. We're going to find us. We're going to not find it. We're making it.
Yeah.
So
given that, I'm not trying to stay sober, but I'm trying to stay alive and I don't have those meetings, but I'm trying to advocate for myself. Like I did reach what I would call a point of surrender in having to like follow up and call Kaiser and be like, I need help.
Yeah.
Right. Very, very urgently. And then to be met with like, okay, we'll authorize therapy and we're going to authorize a psych consult. And then I call for the psych consult. And also I started this process back in like March was when the first time I called about this. Right. And they said that somebody would follow up within the next week, but because like my brain's not functional, like I just, you lose the thread, right? Until I got the thing to pick it back up again. I'm like, oh,
Right.
I'm not going to be able to move forward in my life until I like readdress this piece. Right. So I called Kaiser, they approved that. And then when I called psychiatry to get the appointment, they're like, okay, well, the earliest we have is 2 weeks from now.
Right.
And I'm like, 2 weeks? Like, it's the same issue that I had when I tried to get care at my university.
Right.
Right. It's like, they're so overbooked and there's so much demand that like you couldn't even get an appointment for 3 to 4 weeks unless something really drastic and urgent was happening. Right. Which, one of my biggest issues within the psych field is like, there's so many gray areas that people exist in or like in between where they're not fully enough of like one kind of symptom, like they don't check enough boxes
Right.
to fit in
there
one.
aren't enough boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, I finally had my med appointment this week. The doctor was great. He asked a lot of good questions and was very thorough and like really heard me out. So that was good and very validating. I also had therapy right after, which highly recommend stacking those two. And yeah, so I'm going to switch. I switched to Wellbutrin. I didn't switch. I haven't been taking anything, but I was on Effexor before. Now I'm on Wellbutrin. And I'm feeling lots of things, right? I'm like happy that there's momentum, that I have taken a step, that I, had a positive experience with this doctor. And also I'm nervous to be taking medication again because it's like, I don't know if it's like the bootstrapping narrative of America, but like being dependent on a medication to function is very nerve-wracking.
If your body isn't producing what you need to have baseline functionality,
Right.
then why are you thinking it's bootstrapping? Like your body's just missing. Like you wouldn't think of it if it was insulin. You would just be like, I need insulin, and it wouldn't be like, oh, I have to bootstrap my own blood sugar.
Right. But it's more of like it's just like the practical implications of it, right? It's like having to remember to take something every morning, even with the alarm, because like, what if I'm like, whatever, right?
Right.
So it's like having to adjust and create a new routine around it. I'm worried that it might not work. Like it could just be like, I've been feeling really good the last 4 days, but it could just be a placebo, which like I'll take the placebo because it's better than what I've had, what I've been dealing with before.
Right.
So, okay, wait, but this is also tied into the anxiety piece.
Okay.
Because we're in an election year, we have this really scary candidate who could really make drastic changes to our entire healthcare system and medications and availability and like advocacy for like women's rights, right? Like I know I can see your face just falling and you're like internally rolling your eyes right now.
No.
But it's a legitimate concern.
Yes. It is a legitimate concern.
And I like it's stressful. And it's just like one of those things that is like an anxiety trigger, right? I'm like, if I'm going to be dependent on this thing and I might have this thing taken away, that's going to be it's going to be harder for me to know that I need something and have it taken away.
Right.
Right. So, and no,
okay.
I'm going to keep going.
Okay.
And also like these meds might not work. So there's also like nervousness around it not working, right? Usually people have to try multiple medications, right? And it's not just like, stop taking this today and take a new one tomorrow. Like there's a bit ramp in and ramp out.
It's like 6 weeks, right?
Yeah. And so like the thought of having to go through that is exhausting, right? Like, and also it's like, how do you know if the meds are working, right? Like, again, I feel good now and maybe that's a placebo, but like if that effect wears off, then I have another 5 weeks ish to see how it's going. Right. Like it's just a lot of uncertainty. And then do I combine it with other meds? Do I not combine it with other meds? Like One thing my doctor did, he was really thorough in that he was like, you know, we can start you on the Wellbutrin. And if you find that you're still like struggling with the anxiety or the like ADHD executive function part, like we can add another med in, which was news to me. Because I was like, I mean, yeah, I have Xanax as needed, which has also been very helpful. Like I'm really wary because of our family's addiction background of taking something like a benzo.
Yeah.
But it's like literally a miracle drug. I'm taking like the babyest Xanax possible, like 0.25 milligrams. But like like when my chest is really tight and I'm just like caught in this like thought loop and I can't get myself out, even though I'm at this like musical picnic with my friends, like that brought things back down. Right. And it's a tool that I wish that I'd had sooner if I hadn't been so scared of taking medication.
Right.
Because I think also a lot of my wariness is just in general around knowing like ingesting ingesting substances.
Right.
Right. So
yeah, because there's a fine line in our family that you cross over and then it's hard to get back from.
Right.
Can I say what you know? What do you think I'm gonna say right now?
I think you're gonna say something about me like borrowing trouble and like that these are kind of irrational thoughts.
No, I don't think they're irrational. But what I think they are is every single fear is tied to the future and not actually like, yes, what is happening now, right?
Yeah.
This battle for the presidency, it's valid. I'm not invalidating, but the fear of the stuff is not actually happening right now. Right now, you're 4 days in on a new thing that may also work.
Right.
Right. It may not work. It may work.
Right.
And you'll know whenever you know, or you won't know. I don't know how you determine if it's working or not. But for today, and this is going back to, again, my learned practice of these steps is for my own psychological and physical safety, have to live as present as possible because anything in the past or the future is fucking terrifying. And so, and that could set me off. So like I have to be here now and not there.
Yeah.
Wherever that is, because that is too fucking much.
Right.
And so it is my experience that the more that I can live in the present, which is like you and I are completely safe. We're in this beautiful studio having a conversation with each other right this very second.
Yeah.
No harm is seemingly coming to either of us right now. Right now we have water, we have lights, we have electricity, we have air. It's a little warm in here, but you know, we'll survive that. Right. And so like being as present in the now as possible is the safest place for me to live. And it's really hard to do that when there's so much external, like you said. It's, you know, I get on my feed and it's coming at me. And even though I don't watch the news, sometimes I come home and your dad has it on. And sometimes it comes into my feed. There are, and so there are some things that I can't control in the way that I ingest information. And I also subscribe to a lot of news things in the morning. So I do kind of scroll the headlines and we'll go into the things that I want to know more about.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, what is in my control and what's out of my control? Well, what's in our control is like you and I are both signed up to write a bunch of postcards. Like we are going to take the action when the action is required and do what needs to be done in the moment of that time. So I think, just bring it totally to me and my experience in being brand new kind of trying to live this way is the more that I can be here now, the better it is for me and everyone around me because I'm just better. It's like, because I think it's because I'm safe. I feel safe in the now. Like, I'm safe. You know, I'm loved. I'm safe. I'm here with you. We're having amazing conversations. This is incredible. We have all this equipment and this beautiful space we created. And it's like, you know, I'm okay. But as soon as we turn this off and then we do our recordings and then it's like, did it upload? Did it and you have to go in and like do all of these edits for all these times where I started sneezing or we talked about something that we don't want to include or whatever it is. You know, it's like back into the reality, right? And so part of me is also like, okay, today we're going to help your daughter, you know, my daughter, your sister, like move into her, you know, grad school apartment. So it's like part of my head now is like, oh, we have to get out there and we got to go to Target and we got to do these things. And, you know, it's like another day of slogging through a move, but actually it'll be really joyful to see her in her new place set up for success starting Monday when she has to start school again. And so, you know, part of me is, I don't know, it's part of me is always somewhere in the past or somewhere in the future. And it's really hard for me to stay in the moment. Does that make any sense? I mean, does that still feel judgy? Because I feel like sometimes when I say that, I feel like maybe you think I'm judging you, and I'm not. I don't want to feel judgy. I'm just sharing my experience of what I was taught to live. So I like what you said, so I could live, right? So I could like fucking try and save myself, right? Which was like, you know, I could be living under I don't think I'd be alive. I don't think I'd be alive if I continued the addiction as heavily as I was addicted at 20. But if by some miracle I was alive, I would probably be homeless or, you know, in a psych ward somewhere. And I also think, that's going to go down a rabbit hole, but I think there's, you know, people who do need psych wards. Like there's people who, you know, if they're waiting for consent to help an addicted homeless person agree to go get help.
Right.
What the fuck? Like they're no place to agree to go get help if they're hunched over, cracked out on fentanyl. Like they're in no place to self-advocate and say whether they're willing to do something or not. It's like this person needs to just be taken and detoxed in a very medical way, you know, so that they don't. Yeah. So I have very strong feelings about a lot of stuff, but I really want you to know, like, I'm not, it's not about the bootstrap. It's really about living in the present is so much safer for people to, it's so much safer. Usually, I mean, unless a lion's coming after you, right? Like,
which is why we have these, you know, these neural pathways. Right. But I feel like that's just like my default right now. It's like you say you're not judging me, but it feels like a judgment for you to be like, well, like just cast all that aside and like be in the moment. And I'm like, well, I guess that's like the tricky piece for me to walk is like, how do I stay present and also like ensure the future that I want, right? It's not, you know, you can't fully exclude that, right? No. And also then like past stuff just intrudes into my brain constantly, right?
Yeah.
And has like a little bit less control over me right now. But like yesterday I was talking about something and it just like, that's what triggered the feeling in my chest. And it was like in a loop and I just felt my like energy totally shift. And I was like, I cannot tolerate this right now.
Right.
So I took a Xanax and it was
better.
Yes.
And there you go.
Right. And then I was able to be present.
Yeah.
So
and then the present was fun.
Yeah. So part of it is medication.
Right.
For me right now.
Yeah.
And also like, yeah, it's really hard work to change like my brain default.
Yes, it is.
Right now.
Yes,
right?
it is.
So like, yeah, I know you're like always going to love me and support me. But I'm like, oh, like replaying past things with other people or like, you know, that's just the route that things are taking, right? And luckily I've been more vocal about my experience the last couple of weeks. And in response, I've gotten a lot of like verbal and like written affirmations from friends and family and my overall support system that I really needed to hear. Like, it's okay to need external validation. I need external validation right now. Right.
Yeah.
And so I specifically have a therapist who's like very focused on unconditional positive regard. And she's very affirming and is like, oh, like this is going to be so great for you. Like, I'm so excited. Like, you know what I mean? That's really, like,
we
I
need
cheerleaders.
cheerleaders.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, you know, when I go to meetings, it's like we give out chips 30, 60, 90 days.
Right.
Like everybody's clapping, like, yay, we got this. Or, you know, congratulations, you're at your first meeting. Welcome.
Yeah.
Here's my number. You're like, we're so happy you're here.
There's more visibility too when you're going up to take a chip. Because then everybody in the room sees you and then they can
it's
go
clapping for
support
you. And are happy for you. And also know what it feels like to be 1 day, 2 days, 30 days, 40 days, whatever. It's like everybody in the room knows. And so to be seen and heard like that is a very validating thing. And that's what kind of the secret sauce is that, you know, I mean, and I think that's what's missing on Zoom, right? We don't have that collective clap, the collective laugh, the collective energy. Yeah. You have that one person going out and you're receiving it. So it is hard. And that's why it's hard for people to get sober and stay sober.
Right.
Or to do what you're doing, right? It's hard.
Yeah.
To like pay attention to actually what's going on in the moment and try and get off the hamster wheel, because the hamster wheel has been rolling for a long time and it's like totally new to try and hop off, right? So anyway, I think today was a really good conversation. I think it's amazing that you were willing to try to see if medication would help again. Yeah. And that, you know,
thanks, Mama.
They're, you know, we'll see if it works. Whatever. I mean, I know it sometimes takes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 medications. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the fact that you're trying to do something is a positive sign for you, for yourself. Like not for you to please me or to show up for the family or to not be this person that you're afraid of being to us, right? But to actually do this for yourself, which is a big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you.
Love you. Yeah. You've held a lot of space for me the last couple of weeks, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, I love you. I always hold space for you.
I know.
But maybe still. Not. Sometimes not, because I'm still a mom and I fuck it up.
I mean, yeah, but also like I'm an adult and I'm still I still act like your kid daughter sometimes too.
I was at my company meeting yesterday and there was a few of us on there and one of them was like, so you guys have grown children. Do they still like cry and like yell at you when they're older? Cause my 4-year-old is just, I was like, dude, it never ends. And then it was like, some people had kids in their 40s.
Yeah.
Some people had kids in their 20s. Some people had kids in their 30s. And I was like, yeah, you're always going to, nope.
You're going to be a parent.
You're
no
going to be a
matter
parent.
what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something.
There's always something.
But that's still one of the best things I ever did was have you guys. You brought so much joy into my life that
Thanks,
it's
Mama.
like, I'm super happy that I did that, because I wasn't, it was scary. I didn't want to have kids. It was like we were broke, and and also how do you be a parent? Nobody fucking tells you how to be a parent, right? And so you only have your own experience. And it's like, I'm just going to mess this whole thing up. And I always joke, it's like they sent me home with an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with you. And I was like, I had a whole book for my real estate calculator, my little Casio real estate calculator when I get more with a new car than I do for a human being leaving the hospital, which is fucking scary. Yeah. Right. So, Anyway, drink some water.
I haven't been drinking water.
Yeah, you probably need to drink some water.
Probably need that.
And I don't know.
You're a miracle.
You're a miracle.
I'm a miracle.
We're all miracles.
We're the miracles.
We are the miracles.
All right.
All right. See you next time.
We want to hear from you.
Find us on Instagram and TikTok at 12 Steps for Everyone. That's at the number 12 Steps for Everyone.
Please like and follow us. You can also send us topics you want us to dig into or follow-up questions from each episode.
And if you know someone who would enjoy or benefit from our conversations, please feel free to share this with them. All are welcome here.